Falcons fans, we have so much breaking news surrounding not only the Falcons coaching staff, but what's going on currently in the NFL. So many coaches getting hired today. It appears Clint Kubiak's going to be with the Raiders. Mike LaFleur's going to the Cardinals. And, of course, Raheem Morris, who we're going to start off today's episode with, going to be the DC of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, before we get started, make sure you hit that thumbs up icon. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, because not only are we going to break down the most recent two hirings that the Atlanta Falcons made on their staff, specifically surrounding the quarterback position, and that's always big news, but also just kind of like what the focus is now going to be now that we've seen the staff kind of round out, and how we can attack free agency, the draft, and the offseason as a whole. Let's start, of course, with Raheem Morris. Listen, no ill will towards Raheem. I know that there were times this season that it felt like I was just nonstop going after him all the time. And the truth is that I everything that I said about him, I said going after his coaching. I think Raheem's a good guy. I think he's a respectable human being. I think he's cultivated a lot of great relationships here in Atlanta, but the truth is he was not the right leader for this football team. Now, does that mean Kevin Stefanski is? I don't know. And trust me when I say this, if we start to see this team go down the same path of what Raheem was leading them down, then I will be just as hard on Kevin Stefanski and that coaching staff. So this has nothing to do with Raheem. It has nothing to do with Stefanski as the guys. This has everything to do with the overall football product that Falcons fans need to see, and ultimately getting back to the playoffs, which the Falcons haven't done in 8 years. So Raheem goes to San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan, and do I love the hire for them? Probably not, but Raheem's a solid defensive mind. He helped generate the Falcons this year to getting 57 sacks, which is a franchise record. So he can't be too off kilter or too off track when it comes to his ability to, understand defensive personnel and eventually go out and put together a solid defensive game plan. So I do think that it's probably the closest thing that you can get to a good hire since Robert Saleh left, and knowing the defensive situation there in San Francisco, they're just going to be dealing with injuries nonstop because they always are. Let's focus more now on the Atlanta Falcons' new coaches. So first things first that we've got to talk about is Alex Van Pelt, who is the the quarterback's coach now of the Dirty Birds. Now, the quarterback coach and the offensive pass game coordinator are the two guys that we're going to focus on here in today's episode. So Alex Van Pelt is a very interesting name. It almost feels like this was a nepotism hire again, if you are Kevin Stefanski. Now, most recently, Van Pelt comes from the New England Patriots, who was the offensive coordinator last year in 2024. So not this last year with McDaniel, the year prior to McDaniel coming in under Vrabel. He was the pass game coordinator, the offensive coordinator, and that team was a disaster. So he wasn't a very good play caller. I don't think you can judge an offensive mind based off of their ability to call plays, because there are some guys that are just really good at scheming, and there are some guys that are really good at the chalkboard, the whiteboard. Not everybody has what it takes to call plays. Some people just don't have that creativity in their offensive arsenal, and clearly he was not one of those people. But I will say this, for a guy who has been a offensive mind and has been kind of praised as being a quarterback coach since 2014, he's got experience. So I talked a little bit to Brett Alper, our Patriots host, who has got a lot going on right now, prepping for the Super Bowl, and he told me that he thinks Van Pelt's a joke. But I also know that you take a little bit of that with a grain of salt, because again, Van Pelt was their offensive coordinator in 2024, and they were awful in 2024. So he's worked with players like Aaron Rodgers. He's worked with Baker. He's worked with Andy Dalton before. He has also a little bit of history with Tommy Rees and Kevin Stefanski. So this feels like I don't want to say a decent hire. I just feel like it's a safe hire if you're Kevin Stefanski. You went with a guy that has tenure, has experience, has worked around the quarterback position. It's not like we're adding in, some newbie Joe Schmo who's never been around the game before. Van Pelt has now going into his 11th year of experience around that quarterback position. So I'm not super worried about what we're going to see from Alex Van Pelt. Here's the one where I seem to have a little bit more concern with, and maybe concern's not the right word. I'm a little hesitant on this pick here, and that's Tanner Engstrand. I believe I'm saying that name, Ingstrand, Tanner Engstrand, who is going to be our passing game coordinator. And Ingstrand, according to a lot of different people in the NFL, all the reports that I'm seeing, he is one of those guys that is revered around the league as a offensive mind that is up and coming. The guy's 43 years old, so he's still relatively young. Here's where my hesitancy comes, though. He was just with the Jets last year, and he was their offensive coordinator, and they were dead last in almost everything. So take a look at this. Under Ingstrand, the Jets were last in passing yards per game at 140.3. They ranked 29th in points per game scored at 17.6, and were last in total yards. 29th in total yards as well at 263.6. Now, again, Jets didn't have the weapons that the Atlanta Falcons have. You had Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields and Brady Cook as your trio of quarterbacks. That's the holy trinity of suck. And I just kind of view this as maybe somebody that you could have gone out from and poached from a better team. But again, at the same time, you might not have those luxuries now because all of these really great organizations aren't letting their guys go. And if they are, they're taking big time roles in other franchises. You see these really smart players, really smart coaches taking offensive coordinator jobs or quarterback coaching jobs or head coaching jobs. So it is very tough at this point in the NFL to really go out and try to poach the very best talent. You see what I'm saying? So you try to kind of find that balance of, okay, guy has a really nice reputation, but the reason that he's still available and on the market is because of his most recent failure in New York. They were awful last year. So, and then I talked to a couple of the Jets guys in the office, and they said it's a great hire for the Falcons. It's like, is it though? You're a fan of the Jets. You cover the Jets. Is anything going right for the New York Jets? Probably not. So I think there's a lot of interpretation that has to be done depending on how you view these coaches coming from which organizations. And I know that there are a lot of you fans that get very upset at the fact that we are taking coaches from Cleveland and taking coaches from the Jets, and you don't want to poach from really bad organizations. But at the same time, I do feel like you could find diamonds in the rough everywhere you go. And at one point, the Cleveland Browns were a playoff contending team, guys. Don't forget that. Kevin Stefanski is a 2-time head coach of the year award winner, not a qualifier, not a finalist. He won the award twice. He took Baker to the playoffs. He took Joe Flacco to the playoffs. So now everybody's sitting here and all the people that hate this hire are convulsing, saying, oh no, in 2025, the Cleveland Browns were terrible. Yeah, because look at their quarterback situation. Look at their offensive line. Look at their inept owner. Look at their Andrew Berry's their GM. What's a great way to describe him? Compulsive. He's a very compulsive GM. He was so quick, him and Jimmy Haslam, to give Deshaun Watson that fully guaranteed contract. And looking back at it, that might be the worst contract in NFL history. And there's still talks of him potentially suiting up next year to play for the Cleveland Browns, which at this point, if you haven't gotten off the Deshaun Watson train, you're delusional. So I view this as everybody that hates the hire, you need to take a breath. Everybody that loves the hire, you can add a little bit more skepticism. I think there's that perfect balance here of now we have to focus our sights now that the staff and the front office is kind of rounded out with Ian Cunningham. And if we can go out and make really smart free agency decisions, whether that be in cutting players, whether that be allowing players to explore the free market, whether that be extending players, restructuring players, whatever. If we make the right decisions and we clear up some cap space and we are smart with our draft picks, there is no reason that this Atlanta Falcons team can't go 10-7 or 11-6 next year. You got to make the playoffs. That's the first goal. Everything else on top of that is just gravy. That was exactly what the Chicago Bears did this last year. Make the playoffs. Be in contention week 18 to make sure that your team is ready for the postseason. Not only did they make the postseason, they won their frickin' division. So we're all just jumping the gun, it feels a little bit here on the Kevin Stefanski on saying that it's a great hire or it's a terrible hire. We can all agree that the offensive mind in the room now is going to work side by side with Ryan and Cunningham to put the very best product on the field that they can possible. And if they can't do that, find another coaching staff that will in a couple of years. I think the leash is just as short for Kevin Stefanski as it was for Raheem Morris. I would give Kevin Stefanski 2 years. And I mean that. I wouldn't give him anything other than 2 years. If Raheem was able to go 8-9, then you can, that's bare minimum. You got to go 8-9. You got to go 8-9 to at least even think about keeping your job. And even that's not good enough. Making the playoffs is good enough. This is a performance-based league. What have you done and what have you done for me lately? And if Kevin Stefanski can take this team to the playoffs, great. We'll talk about extensions after that. We'll talk about your future after that. But year one, you got to make the playoffs. That is the expectation for this ball club with the talent that's on defense, with Bijan Robinson and Drake London. You've got a number one wide receiver. Who knows if Kyle Pitts is going to come back? Probably not, in my opinion. But either way, you got to get the Kevin Stefanski era a little bit of time to breathe, but not that much time. All right, that's all I got for you today on this episode. Remember to hit that thumbs up icon, hit that subscribe button. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up and be cool.